Well, the FBI has been very involved with respect to Justice Kavanaugh. They know Justice Kavanaugh very well. They've investigated him, I guess, 6 times, and they've investigated him for this hearing. Look, if she shows up and makes a credible showing, that'll be very interesting, and we'll have to make a decision. But I can only say this. He is such an outstanding man. Very hard for me to imagine that anything happens.
Well, another big story that we're watching this morning, the confirmation process of Judge Brett Kavanaugh, as his accuser calls for the FBI to investigate her claims before she will testify on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, President Trump standing by his Supreme Court pick, as sources now tell Fox News there will not be an FBI investigation. Let's bring in California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's a member of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thank you for coming on the program this morning. You just heard the president's comments as he was leaving for North Carolina. What did you think of them?
Well, if the president wanted a full investigation, he would tell the FBI, as has been done in the past, to look at these new claims. I don't understand the arbitrary deadline on this.
So what exactly is it? Just go back to your initial response. What is it that you want the FBI to investigate?
Well, what they have investigated before, whether it was this nominee or whether it was with Clarence Thomas. They reopened that investigation to interview this victim, to interview other people who were involved at the party, and to interview Judge Kavanaugh.
So let me tell you the reasons for which a highly placed law enforcement official tells our own John Roberts at Fox News 3 reasons. There cannot be a criminal investigation. There is no crime alleged where the statute of limitations has not run.
No one is calling for a criminal investigation.
There are no allegations of a federal crime. The only investigation the FBI does is the
Sandra,
background
you're
investigation.
confusing what the FBI does.
But hold on.
Sandra, you're confused.
The
FBI conducts background investigations for nominees.
6 background checks he's had, correct,
Right.
Judge Kavanaugh?
Yeah, and there's new information now that has come forward, just as there was in the Clarence Thomas hearing.
All right.
And they reopened that. But that takes the president to order it. Now, I understand why a president who has 13 credible sexual assault allegations against him may not want to order somebody to investigate a judge he nominated with the sexual assault allegation. But that's the right thing to do.
Let's get to what Senator Lindsey Graham is saying about this and Democratic tactics on all of this. He says, quote, requiring an FBI investigation of a 36-year-old allegation without specific references to time or location before Professor Ford will appear before the Judiciary Committee is not about finding the truth, but delaying the process until after the midterm elections.
Now, again, that is confusing and standing on process and ignoring a substantive, credible allegation. Do we want a judge on the Supreme Court if this is true? I don't understand the argument that even if this is true, it's expired beyond some arbitrary fantasy deadline, so Judge Kavanaugh should just go to the Supreme Court. That doesn't make sense at all.
Even you just heard the president say, I want to hear her. He said he thinks it would be wonderful if she appeared before the Judiciary Committee. He said, I want to hear her story. He's being very clear on that.
Yeah, and I've worked as a prosecutor with sexual assault victims. This woman has had death threats placed against her. She didn't sleep in her own bed last night, and all she is asking is that other witnesses also be interviewed and that she doesn't have to sit at the same table in just 5 days with the judge that she has made this allegation against, that we have a process here that is responsible and, shows dignity towards this victim.
Well, I think you are hearing from both sides of the aisle that they want her to be heard. You've heard the White House say, Kellyanne Conway, she should not be ignored, and most do agree with that. That is a big question, the timing of all of this and why it was waited so long on the part of Dianne Feinstein to
it came before the vote.
Bring the allegations forward. Lastly, I want to finish with this. This is the Wall Street Journal editorial board this morning. The main Democratic goal is to delay a confirmation vote past the November election. That would spare Democrats running for re-election in Donald Trump states from having to take a difficult confirmation vote. If Dems take the Senate majority, they'll then insist on no vote until the new Senate convenes in January. Last word to you, Congressman.
Well, if the Republicans rush through a nominee where you have unanswered sexual assault allegations, I can promise you that Democratic senators will be interested in going and looking at those allegations. And if Judge Kavanaugh lied under oath, you could see a judicial impeachment. And that's not good for anybody.
So do you think that she'll show up on Monday? Do you think she'll show up?
I think she should be afforded, a process that looks at these claims. And yes, hopefully she could testify. But sitting next to the judge, as Senator Grassley proposed, in such a rushed way, that's not fair to her.
Or behind closed doors. Congressman Swallow, really good to have you on the program. Hope you come back.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
21 pass. Is this a big step?